My beloved child, you think my silence means I have gone far away, but in truth I am only changing where I stand, so that I can protect you from an angle you have never seen. You think you have been left behind, yet in that darkness I am reshaping you with my patient hands. Do not be quick to conclude that I have forgotten you, for it is precisely in the moments when you are most desperate that I am standing closest to you. There is a story rarely mentioned in the Book of Kings when the prophet Elisha and his servant were standing in the midst of the Aramean army that had surrounded them. The servant trembled, thinking that God had abandoned them, that their fate was sealed. But Elisha whispered a quiet prayer, "Lord, open his eyes that he may see." And immediately, the invisible curtain was drawn back on the mountaintops. There was an entire army of fire, radiant horses and chariots blazing, covering them, shielding them, defending them. What matters is this: the protection was there all along. It was only that human eyes had not yet seen it, and so hastily assumed that the Lord had gone away. That story is the very picture of many lives today. You see only the encirclement, but you do not see the wall of fire I have built around your soul. There are nights when you place your hand over your chest and hear your heart sigh, and you think it is the drumbeat of loneliness. You believe you have been forgotten in the sea of people, pushed out of my plans, pushed outside the circle of heaven's concern. Yet you do not know that at the very moment you feel most empty, I am quietly laying a new foundation within you. I do not let you hear my voice because I want you to hear the very cry that is rising from the depths of your own soul, something that, if I spoke too soon, you would overlook. Your first misunderstanding begins right here, when you sense silence. You assume I have disappeared. Then, on the days when everything goes against your wishes, you call it bad luck and call me the one who stands outside. You are upset because you miss the bus, because an opportunity slips through your fingers, because the words you long to hear are not spoken by the one you love. You blame me for not arranging a straight road for you to walk, forgetting that it is precisely at those bends in the road that I have redirected many disasters away from your life. You misunderstand, thinking I am making things hard for you, yet you do not know that I am building an invisible fence around your steps, so that one day, when you look back, you will have to admit, if I had given you what you wanted, then you would have collapsed long ago. There are moments when you look at your age, your failures, your mistakes, the years that did not go as you had hoped, and you conclude that I have run out of plans for you. You trust the ticking countdown clock of your life more than you trust my timing. You see others moving faster and think you have been left behind. But you do not know that I am turning up the heat in the furnace just a little more, so that the metal within you becomes pure enough for the journey ahead. This misunderstanding is dangerous, because it makes you lose heart right before I open the very door you have been waiting for all these years. You think you are slow, when in truth I am pushing your roots deeper before your branches reach higher. There are days when your soul is so tired that you no longer even want to open your mouth to pray. You still try to appear strong in front of others, but when you close your door, you feel only a dim, murky darkness inside, as if the world has forgotten you and I no longer bother to look your way. You sigh and wonder why the words you send up to heaven seem to drop right back down at your feet. Why your heart is full of longing and yet hears nothing but prolonged silence. You begin to believe that you are invisible, that I am busy with better people, and that you are just a faint dot on the great canvas of the universe. Yet precisely in the place where you think I am most silent, I am working more quietly than you can imagine. You see only the emptiness, but I see things you are not calm enough to understand. When you think you have been abandoned, in reality, I am allowing you to step into a classroom that only deep souls recognize, the school of spiritual maturity. There are things that, if I answered immediately, you would never learn the lesson of perseverance. If I comforted you too quickly, you would lose your sensitivity to my call. I know the tears you shed at midnight. I hear your sighs even when you do not dare to name your pain. You are not invisible at all. You are simply being led into a season where I choose to heal you through silence rather than through words. The greatest danger is not that you do not hear me, but that you begin to put a label on yourself. I do not matter to God. When you allow that thought to slip in, it slowly makes you withdraw, grow indifferent to holy things, and see moments of prayer as mere formality. But I do not let you drift too far in that pattern of thinking. I interrupt your negative stream of thoughts with small signs you dismiss as coincidence, a line in a video, a piece of music that touches your wound, a word of comfort from the person you least expected. These are not vague accidents, they are the channels I borrow to reach your heart, to remind you that you have never been forgotten, not even for a second. You need to remember this. Do not use human coldness to measure the depth of God's concern. I am not silent because I am indifferent. I am silent because I am opening a path you cannot yet see. I am not slow because I lack love. I move slowly because I want to lead you to a place where your soul is strong enough to stand firm. When you feel farthest from me is precisely when I am nearest to you. I am simply standing behind the wall of trials, waiting for you to take one more step so you can discover that my love for you has never changed. If you knew how I have watched over, guarded, and upheld your soul through every weary breath, you would stop calling yourself abandoned and begin to look at your circumstances with clearer eyes. For sometimes the feeling of being forgotten is not the truth. It is only a thin layer of mist hiding the light I am already shining upon your life. You often look at disappointments in your life through the eyes of someone who has given up hope. You treat delays, postponed meetings, and missed opportunities as signs that I do not place you under my special providence. You sigh and call it bad luck, then reproach me for letting your days become so chaotic. You think that if I truly loved you, your path would be straight, light, with few collisions and little pain. But you forget that a path that is too smooth only breeds carelessness, while a winding road teaches your soul how to keep its balance. I do not arrange the rough stretches to make things difficult for you, but to keep you from the turns that could shatter your heart even more. There are things you cannot see on the surface. You see only a closed door, but I see what lies behind it. You see only an opportunity slipping from your hands, but I see the dark side of that opportunity, the place where you might be wounded more deeply than you imagine. You see only people rejecting you, but I see the full extent of their character, intentions, and influence on your soul if that relationship were to continue. You view life through a very narrow slice, your emotions in that moment. I see your life as a wide, long map from your old wounds, to the trials to come, to the graces you are not yet strong enough to carry. That is why, at times, I say no, not because you are unworthy, but because you are not ready to bear consequences you yourself cannot foresee. You do not realize it, but in many situations, it is precisely the delays, the seemingly meaningless events, the days you call the end of your lucky streak, that are in fact the shield I raised to keep you from harm. A phone call you were waiting for that never came. A door you tried to push open that did not budge. A person you trusted who walked away. All these lie within my careful control. If I let everything follow your whims, you would be led by your impulses, pulled by glittering but unreal things, and wounded by people who appear suitable on the outside, but whose nature would only lead you astray. You reproach me for what you lose, but you do not realize that I have kept for you what is most precious, your soul still intact. Do you remember the times you begged me for something at any cost? You pleaded, you insisted, convinced that if I granted it, you would be happier. Yet, as time passed, You realize that what you once desired so fiercely had become a burden for someone else. If I had yielded to you then, you might now be carrying pains you are, by grace, spared from today. Some things are withheld because I love you, but some things are taken away also because I love you. You see only the word loss, but I see the word preservation. You think I am robbing you of joy, but I know that I am disarming a future sorrow you would never have had the strength to face. The danger lies here. You start to see every difficulty as a sign that I do not love you. You confuse trials that help you grow with disasters meant to destroy you. You cannot distinguish between the scratch that wakes you up and the blow I have already blocked on your behalf. You grow angry at me for the walls standing before you, not realizing that these walls have saved you from much darker valleys. You resent me for not letting you walk straight ahead. But you do not understand that the straight road you long for hides a deep pit you cannot see. You want everything to be smooth so that life feels easy. I want you to mature so that you can live stronger, wiser, and freer. There are times when you complain, "Why does God keep letting bad things happen to me?" But you have never asked, if I did not intervene, how much worse would those things have become? You see only what you lose, not what I have kept from you. You see only the obstacle before your eyes, not the rescue behind it. You see only what you do not have, not what you do not have to endure, because I stopped it before it could harm you. If I let you look back at all the strange coincidences, all the times you escaped in the last moment, all the times someone happened to say a sentence that changed your decision, you would know that I have never stood outside your life, not even for an instant. More than once, I have pulled you out of things you clung to, thinking they were happiness, when in fact they were draining your soul. You kept accusing me of taking away what you wanted, not knowing that I was giving you back what you needed. I took away the one who did not know how to cherish you, to bring you the one who can recognize the true worth of your soul. I took away a path that looked bright, but was bright only on the surface. Inside, it was full of shadows that could swallow your calling whole. You saw the false light and called it opportunity. I saw the long, slow wearing down and called it the waste I do not want you to fall into. You must understand this. I never allow trials to come without meaning. Trials are not punishment. They are a form of protection. When you go through what you did not want, I am not standing far away as a spectator. I walk beside you, letting your heart grow stronger bit by bit. I let you stumble a little so you can learn how to stand. I let you slow down so you can see the road more clearly. I let you feel the hollow ache so your soul can discern between what has true value and what is only beautiful in your imagination. Each time you face hardship, you think I have left, but in truth, in those very moments, I place my hand on your shoulder more firmly than ever. I long for you to pause and look at your life with the eyes of someone who is being protected, not with the eyes of someone who is being punished. When a door closes, ask, what is behind this that I have not yet seen? When a plan falls apart, ask, am I being saved from something even greater? When someone walks away, ask, who would I have become if that person had stayed? You will see that every near miss, every wrong beat, every time life refuses to go according to your wishes, has a carefully arranged reason. I never let a miracle happen carelessly, and I never allow delay to occur without carrying within it a subtle reward. Do not grow weary of me just because I do not indulge your passing emotions. My love for you is not founded on the shallow impulsiveness of a fleeting moment. That love looks far, looks deep, looks into the very shape of your soul in the future. I did not form you so that you would live an easy but empty life. I formed you so that you would live a life of depth, of courage, of the capacity to pass through storms and still keep your inner light clear. And for that to happen, you must walk through the trials I allow to enter your life, not to exhaust you, but to make you more steadfast and more spacious within. So I want you to look again at all the times you almost had it in your life, and ask me a question that many people do not dare to ask. If that day you had given me exactly what I wanted, would I still be standing today? I believe that when you answer this question with complete honesty, you will see that I have protected you far more than you ever felt. Because my love for you is not a love that keeps you in passive safety, but a love that teaches you to grow strong, to discern, to recognize what truly brings life. I never abandon you. I am only saving you in ways you have not yet learned how to understand. There are seasons in your life when you look back on your youth and see only crumpled pages. You regret the years that slipped away like the wind. Regret the opportunities you missed. Regret the dreams you once held but never carried out. You look around and see people far ahead of you, some more successful, some more stable, some already close to their dreams, while you are still fumbling along with hesitant steps. Then your soul whispers that you are late, too late to change, too late to begin again, too late for me to still open a way just for you. But, my child, that is the gentlest yet most deadly lie that darkness loves to plant in the minds of those I love. For as soon as you believe that you are too late, you yourself close every door I am about to open. You do not know that I hold time in my hand, while time itself is but a falling leaf resting in my palm. You feel pressured by the pace of society, by the rhythm of others, by invisible deadlines that I never set for you. You think that dreams must blossom while you are still young, that your calling must appear while you are still full of energy. You think I only use those who keep perfect pace, while my history has been written with people who walked slowly, who even seemed to be going the wrong way. Do you remember Abraham, when I promised him descendants as numerous as the stars? He was so old that the promise itself seemed absurd. Do you remember Moses? He thought his life had ended when he had to flee into the desert for 40 years. Do you remember Peter? He thought he had failed completely after he denied me 3 times. And yet precisely in the too late that people declared to be the end of hope, I built the most radiant stories of salvation. Therefore, when you look at your life and say, I am late, I simply smile, for I know that the moment you call late is the very moment I call the right season. You do not see that the very years which seem useless have quietly been nurturing within you what a few quick months could never create: depth, perseverance, humility, and a heart that understands the pain of others. You do not see that the very failures you despise are softening your heart so that you will be truly merciful in the future. You have not yet realized that the very wounds that once brought you to your knees are becoming fertile ground for a great calling to grow, without being overshadowed by pride. No span of time is meaningless in my hands. Not a single day passes without leaving some important trace in your soul, even if you do not see it. The truth is that you are not waiting for me, you are waiting for results. You think I am slow because you have not yet seen any fruit. You think I have forgotten you because your dream has not yet taken shape. But you do not know that a seed must lie in the ground for a very long time before it begins to sprout. The light above the soil never sees the silent battles of the seed in the darkness, its struggle with hard earth, with cold, with insects, with the long night. I am deepening your roots before bringing you into the light. I am taking apart in you the wrong motives, the fragile ambitions, the beautiful yet unreal illusions. If I were to let you step into your dream while your heart is not yet pure enough, you would end up destroying the very promise I have given you. And you keep thinking that I have done nothing all these years, but you do not see what I am preparing the people I am leading into your life, the doors I am quietly redirecting, the events that must fall into place at just the right moment so that not a single piece of the puzzle is missing. A calling is not an industrial product, quickly manufactured. It is a handcrafted work that requires time, breath, and even endurance. I am never in a hurry when creating something beautiful. I am never rushed when shaping a precious soul. Slow does not mean no. Late does not mean lost. Silence does not mean I am standing still. My child, I want to tell you this gently. Yet with firm resolve, you have never been a single day late in my plan. You may be behind schedule in your own plans, but you have never missed a beat in mine. I did not make you to run after someone else's calendar. I made you to walk at the pace that is truly yours. When I decide to open a path for you, no one can get ahead of you. When I choose to hold you back, no one can pull you forward faster. You do not need to compare yourself with anyone, because your journey does not coincide with any other pair of feet in this world. There is one thing I want you to remember clearly. A true calling is never lost. It is only delayed so that it may be completed. Delay is not rejection. It is the process by which your heart becomes wide enough to receive the great things I want to give. If I were to place important things into your hands too soon, they would weigh you down. But if I give them at the right time, they will become wings that lift you up. And you will understand why I have let you pass through so many stretches of life that seemed blocked and hopeless, because I want you to be steadfast without arrogance, confident yet still humble, able to fly high without forgetting the ground. I know there are nights when you sigh and say, maybe I should give up. I know you think your life is now nothing but smudged, stained pages. But when I look at those very pages, I see a book that has not yet been finished. I see chapters ahead that are far more beautiful than anything you have already walked through. You see only the present. I see the whole story. You see the night. I see the dawn. You see wasted years. I see years of preparation. You see yourself as slow. I see you moving at exactly the speed that keeps your soul from burning out. You are not late. You are simply being brought to the exact point from which all the doors must open at once. And when I open them, you will understand all those years, when you thought you were going backward, were in fact the backward steps needed to gain momentum. Trust me, no calling is ever lost simply because time has passed. Only a soul that abandons itself will fail to see what I have prepared. But I believe you are not someone who gives up. I know there is still a spark within you. If you will place that spark in my hands, I will turn it into a torch that will lead you to the promise. There are pains in your life that have sunk so deep that you have begun to treat them as part of who you are. They are no longer merely memories. They have become the lens through which you look at the world and at yourself. You have endured betrayal, contempt, abandonment, wounds inflicted by those you thought were meant to protect you. You have lost faith in goodness, and little by little you have fastened an invisible label onto your heart. I am not good enough. I am damaged. I am a flawed version of creation. You do not speak these words aloud, but I hear this self-condemnation every night. They are like tiny thorns piercing your soul, making you shrink back, close in on yourself, afraid to love, afraid to open your heart, afraid to receive what is good. You do not realize that the most dangerous thing is not the wound itself, but your choice to build your identity around it. A wound is only something that happened in the past, but when you embrace it as your identity, it becomes a prison. You remember exactly who hurt you. Remember the tone in their voice. Remember the moment you collapsed. You remember it so vividly that you begin to think, this is who I am. This is the definition of my life. But, my child, the wound is what others did to you. Your true identity is what I proclaim over you. When you allow the wound to rewrite your name, you are giving authority to pain instead of giving authority to me, the one who formed you with loving hands. I know there are memories you have locked away in the darkest room of your soul. You do not want to remember, do not want to think, do not want to touch them. You think that locking them away will make them disappear. But pain never disappears when it is buried. it only sleeps. Then rises again in the moments when you are weakest. It makes you doubt everything, even me. It causes you to see every promise through the eyes of a victim and compels you to keep a safe distance from anything that resembles hope. You do not believe that others truly love you, because your past once proved the opposite. You do not believe you deserve peace, because within you, the wound has become yourself. Yet I look at you and say, the wound has no right to determine your worth. I am the one who defines you. In my hands, a wound is not an ending mark, it is a beginning point. I do not deny your pain, nor do I force you to forget it. I want you to look straight at it, but with me standing right beside you. Like a potter, I see the crack in the clay vessel, yet I do not discard it. I place it into the fire not to burn it to ashes, but so that its fractures may be sealed, even made more beautiful. When you entrust your wounds to me, I will turn them into testimonies of intervention, not marks of destruction. But this can only happen when you truly hand them over, not when you keep holding on to them as an excuse for your fears. There are moments when you are afraid to lay your pain down, not because it is comfortable, but because it is familiar. You are afraid that if those wounds are no longer there, you will not know who you are. You are afraid that healing means you must forgive, and forgiving means you will have nothing left with which to protect yourself. But my child, clinging to pain is never a form of safety. It only keeps you living in the darkness longer. I am not asking you to be strong all at once. I only ask you to open the smallest crack so that I may touch you. A soul that opens even a little is a soul that has already begun to be healed. Let me lead you into the place where you have hidden your memories, not so that you may hurt again, but so that I may place medicine exactly where, for so long, you have allowed no one to touch. I want to touch the rejection you have never dared to speak of. I want to touch the loss you have tried to cover with a brave face. I want to touch the seemingly harmless words that made you crumble from within. You have carried them for so long that your body and your soul have grown heavy. I want to lift them from your shoulders. But I cannot do that if you keep holding on to them as if they were your most precious possessions. I want you to know a truth you rarely believe: your wounds will become the gateway through which others are healed. I do not waste anyone's pain. When you place your wounds in my hands, I will shape them into a powerful testimony. Others will see resurrection in you, and they will believe that I can do the same for them. Your scars will become a light that points the way for souls in despair. The very things that made you feel completely broken are what I will use to open a path for many others. But no grace of salvation can work through a heart still imprisoning itself in pain. You must step out of the role of the one who was hurt and step into the identity of one who has been touched by me. You are not what people have done to you. You are what I declared about you before you saw the first light of your life. You are not the ache of your past. You are the breath I am breathing into your present. You are not a faulty version. You are an unfinished yet hope-filled work in my hands, the one who never abandons any work once begun. I invite you to one thing, only one thing, but it will change your whole life. Let me open the doors of memory that you fear the most. I do not open them to expose you. I open them to set you free. I do not touch to make you hurt more. I touch so that you may know pain no longer has the right to rule over you. When you dare to place your wounds in my hands, you will see a wondrous thing. The very pain that once brought you to your knees will become the place where I raise you up the strongest. You often cry out to me to rescue you, yet deep within, you do not want to move. You beg me to make a way, but when the path begins to appear, you hesitate. You stand still, waiting for another sign, another guarantee. You want to see a miracle, but you do not want to step into the small, concrete part that is yours. You want me to heal you, yet you hold on to your old ways of thinking, your old habits, your old relationships, your old way of life, the very things that are the source of your brokenness. You do not realize it, but this is a passive kind of faith, wanting everything to be done for you, without wanting to do together with me. And if you remain in that place, even if miracles happen around you, they cannot take deep root in your life. You have no idea how many times I have set the whole host of heaven in motion for you. You see only how tangled your life seems, but you do not know how many invisible battles have been fought on your behalf. You feel only your weariness, but you do not see how many arrows aimed at your soul have been snapped before they reached you. There have been nights when you slept with a heavy heart, feeling abandoned, yet I had my armies standing guard. There have been moments when you almost collapsed in despair, but a fragile thread of hope still held you. That thread was in my hand. I, my Holy Spirit, and all my angels have never ceased working for you. And yet, on your side, so many times you only want to stand and watch. You want me to break the chains, but you refuse to let go of the last strand still gripped in your hand. You want me to close harmful doors, yet you keep your finger caught in the frame, wanting the door shut while still leaving a gap. You want me to make your heart new, yet you cling tightly to the poisons you have grown accustomed to. You say, "Set me free," and then you turn right back to the same patterns of thought, the same places, the same people you know will drag your soul down into the pit. You do not see this contradiction, but I see it clearly. You long for a miracle, yet you are afraid to let that miracle change your real, everyday life. Passive faith makes you accustomed to the role of the victim. You retell, over and over, what others have done to you, the injustices, the wounds, the losses, as if that were the whole story. You need to be heard, and I understand that, but I do not want you to spend your whole life in the role of the injured one, because when you see yourself only as a victim, you will always be waiting for others to change, for circumstances to change, for some miracle to appear from the outside, and you forget that I am also inviting you to change from within. I do not deny what you have gone through. I simply do not want you to build your house forever on that land of sorrow. I want you to step out, even if it is only one small step, so that your life is no longer defined by what has happened, but by the one who is walking with you. Remember this, a miracle is not always a dazzling event exploding on the outside. A miracle is first of all the moment you dare to cooperate with grace. When I say to you, forgive, that too is part of the miracle. When I say, leave that path behind, that is the difficult part of the miracle. When I urge you, return to prayer, to my word, to an upright life, that is when I am opening a way for my power to enter every layer of your existence. Miracles do not happen by you just sitting there, giving up, waiting for some sudden turn that makes everything disappear. Miracles happen when my hand takes yours, and together we begin to act. So many times I have whispered in your heart, take one step, not a giant leap, but a small step, just enough to show that you still want to live, still want to believe, still want to walk with me. I say, open your heart again. Even when you tremble because you have been hurt before, I say, lay that burden down, even when you feel it has fused to your very self. I do not demand that you be perfect before you come to me. I only ask that you not insist on fixing yourself in the same old place. My spirit has often stirred your heart, bringing tears to your eyes at a verse of scripture, a word of reminder, a sharing that touches your deepest wound. That is not a passing emotion, that is me knocking at the door. But if you are moved only for a moment and then go back to living exactly the same way, that flame will slowly die. I see in you a deep longing. You want to be strong, to be free, to be unbound. to escape the cycles of sin, the repeated, wearying relationships, the familiar temptations. Yet between longing and reality, you often stop at wanting without doing anything. You wait until you feel inspired enough, until circumstances become easier, until others change first, until I clear away every obstacle before you move. But my child, true faith does not wait for everything to be favorable before it dares. True faith begins when you step out even while your heart is still trembling, even while circumstances are not yet settled, even while your wounds have not completely disappeared. I want you to understand this. I do not need a flawless warrior in order to use you. I use those whose hands still tremble when they take up the sword, yet they dare to grasp it. I use those who still carry scars, yet dare to stand up. I use those who have fallen before, but refuse to use their failures as an excuse to stay down. I do not want you to live a faith that ends with being moved by a video or shedding tears at a song, only to have your life remain unchanged afterward. I want your faith to become a decision not to return to the old cycle, a decision to leave environments that corrupt your soul, a decision to say no to what draws you away from me, a decision to say yes to what I am inviting you to, even if it seems small. Many times you say to me, "Please give me peace." But peace does not descend upon a heart that continues to feed toxic thoughts. You must cooperate by reordering your way of thinking, choosing not to let yourself drift along with dark assumptions about yourself, about others, about me. You ask me to deliver you from temptation, yet you keep placing yourself in situations where you easily fall. You ask me to lead you out of harmful relationships, yet you are the one who reaches out, clings, and keeps hoping in things I have shown you again and again do not belong to you. You ask me to heal you, yet you destroy yourself with words of self-condemnation every single day. I am not there to watch you endlessly beat yourself up. I am there so that you may learn, with me, to walk in a different way. I invite you to rise from the spectator's seat. Do not look at your life only as a sad movie in which you are the character oppressed by fate. I have placed in you the capacity to respond. You can choose to pray instead of merely complain. You can choose to seek my word instead of chasing voices that only distract you. You can choose to seek a community, a spiritual companion, instead of staying alone while dark thoughts devour you. You can choose to be honest with me about your temptations and weaknesses, instead of sinning and then hiding from me. Each such choice is a small step, but it is the step of a warrior, not of a victim. The warrior in me is not the one who never cries. A warrior is one who knows how to weep and still praise, who knows weariness and still clings to faith, who knows their weakness and still dares to say, "Use me." You may tremble when you say that, but say it anyway. Faith is not the absence of fear. Faith is walking on while fear is still present. I do not require that all your pain vanish before you can praise. I only ask that you do not let pain silence your thanksgiving. I do not require your life to be completely in order before you come to me. I want you to bring all that disorder and place it in my hands, and together with me, tidy it up little by little. My child, I have done and am doing my part, protecting, intervening, lifting you up, enlightening you. Now it is time for you to do your part, to obey, to walk, to choose, to cooperate. When my part and your part meet, the miracle will not remain only on your lips, not remain only as a fleeting feeling. It will penetrate the very structure of your life, shaping the way you love, the way you think, the way you work, the way you face suffering. Then your faith will no longer be merely a beautiful idea, but a new way of living. I do not promise you a path without tears, but I promise that if you will stop standing still and begin to cooperate with me, Step by step, day by day, you will see you are no longer someone swept away by circumstances, but one who walks with God. And that is the greatest miracle of your life. I have seen the whole course of your journey long before you could name your first dream. What seems to you as nothing is happening does not mean my hands are empty. There are many things I have set aside for a time, not because I forgot, but because I know that if I placed them in your hands too early, they themselves would weigh on you so heavily that you would no longer recognize who you are. There are blessings which, if given while your heart is still immature, would become pressure, become reasons for you to boast in yourself rather than give thanks to me. I do not want blessings to become chains. I wait until your heart is soft enough, deep enough, awake enough to hold what I have prepared without losing yourself. That is why there has been a long season when you thought you were standing still, that every door remained shut, when in truth, that was the time I was patiently shaping the inner part of you, the part no one sees, yet the very part that will determine your whole life. Don't think that the fact you still haven't been able to lay your hands on the things you long for is a sign that I am standing outside your life. In reality, it is precisely in those silent stretches that I have, time and again, redirected a meeting, changed the time of a trip, adjusted the route you take to work, slowed down a message that seemed harmless. Every small detail, every event that doesn't go according to plan is a stroke of the pen I use to redraw the path of your life. When you think you are being left hanging in midair, I am quietly arranging each piece so that, when you step into the moment I have appointed, everything is ready. You only see the emptiness in front of you, but I am preparing the fullness behind the scenes. You only see yourself being delayed, but I am keeping you from rushing headlong into a land where your soul has not yet put down enough roots to stand firm. Now, deep within, you can sense that something is different from before. Can't you? It is no coincidence that lately your heart has become more easily moved by the things that belong to me. It is no coincidence that, while you are hurriedly scrolling through so much noise, you suddenly stop and linger over a single line that touches the deepest part of your heart. It is not by accident that, right in the middle of your busyness, an urge rises up to come back to me, to kneel, to talk with me, even though you don't quite know why. That is not just a strange feeling, that is the stirring of my spirit. He is gently breathing on the area you thought had gone completely cold, rekindling embers you thought were dead, that urge to cry without knowing what to call it, that faint ache in your heart when you hear someone speak about returning, that strange peace that appears when there seems to be no reason at all to be at peace. All of these are signals for you to know I am waking you up from the long sleep of disappointment and self-contempt. Do not make light of these small signs. When my spirit begins to move, he rarely comes with noise, with thunder, with events that shake the world before your eyes. He usually comes as a gentle breath, as a quiet yet deep feeling, as urgings that seem vague but refuse to die out. You may deny him, you may try to ignore him, but he remains persistent. He is like a breeze that slips through the crack of the door, even though you have tried to shut it tight. He touches your memory, reminding you of the holy desires you once buried under the worries of daily bread. He allows you to see more clearly the emptiness within that nothing in this world can fill. That sense that something is missing is itself an invitation. It is not meaningless dissatisfaction, but a bell ringing to say it is time for you to step into a new stage. I know you have at times concluded that your life is delayed, that your age, your mistakes, your detours, your wandering years have pushed you off the rails of my plan. I know you have often whispered to yourself, if only I had known sooner, if only I had started earlier, if only I hadn't wasted so much time. You compare yourself with others. Look at what they have achieved. and then use that as a stamp to seal over your own life. I'm too late. Surely God has no more plans for me. But I say to you again, I do not make plans according to the rushed schedule of this world. I do not measure the worth of a life by whether you started earlier or later than those around you. I look at whether you are willing to let me use you or not. In my kingdom, there are those who are only called at the late afternoon hour, yet they still receive their share in full. So, let go of the shame of arriving late. You are not someone who has missed the train and is left standing alone on a cold platform. You are like a tree that has been planted in dry soil for a long time, whose roots have already driven deep into the ground. When the rain comes, that tree will draw water more strongly than the ones just newly planted. What you call wasted years, I see as the years that have taught you to feel, to have compassion, to understand, to place yourself inside the pain of others. The opportunities you think have slipped away do not leave behind only regret. They help you recognize that you cannot steer everything by yourself the way you once imagined. You step into this phase not with naive, youthful innocence, but with a heart that has been seasoned, has been broken, and now thirsts for what is true. And it is precisely that heart that I need in order for your calling to be lived out in depth. Have you noticed that recently the things that once intoxicated you have begun to lose their flavor? Outward pleasures no longer cover the emptiness inside. Words of praise no longer make you feel that you are enough. The entertainments that once helped you forget your life now only leave you more exhausted. This is not a sign that you are burned out on life. It is a sign that you no longer fit the old version of yourself. I am stretching your heart so it can hold things that are greater, purer, more full of light. Until now, you have barely had enough strength to think for yourself, for your personal plans, for the narrow circle around you. But when my Spirit blows, He widens your vision, giving you the desire to live not only for yourself, but also for other souls, for stories that go beyond the boundaries you once set. I want you to understand this. You are not so small that I cannot perform something extraordinary through your life. What the world calls ordinary, unremarkable, I can still use as precious material. I have chosen people who were not highly regarded, faces no one paid attention to, those who had made many mistakes, and through them, I have written radiant chapters. I delight in writing a story with pens that seem to be the ones no one wants to use, not because I lack options, but so that no one can mistake the outcome as the work of their own strength. When people are astonished and ask, "How could it be this person?" I smile, because that is the very sign that my hand is at work. You too are on the list of those whom I want to use in this way. If you are willing to place your life in my hands, including the parts you consider ruined, flawed, or dark, you may still be asking yourself, but how can I know if this really is the right time? How do I avoid confusing mere emotion with a true invitation? You do not need to understand every detail. I am not asking you to grasp the entire blueprint. I only ask you to respond with very small, but concrete steps. When your heart stirs with the desire to return to me more deeply, do not quench it with the words, "Maybe another day." When you feel urged to let go of a relationship that is wearing down your soul, do not rush to bargain with me. When you hear a thought resounding within you, go back to prayer. Touch my word. Seek me more earnestly. Take that as the sound of your own name being called. You do not need a large signboard falling down from the sky. The changing of seasons in a soul always begins with movements that are gentle but persistent, like that. At the appointed time I have set, the things that truly belong to you will appear along your path without you having to fight and grab for them. But their arrival is not given so that you can sit back and enjoy them, but so that you can cooperate even more wholeheartedly. I am not leading you into a phase made up only of favorable conditions. I am leading you to a place where every step you take becomes a lived yes. The graces I give you are not medals to be displayed, but instruments for service. The great doors I am about to open are not there to give your ego more room to grow, but to give you opportunities to pass on to others what has been comforting, healing, and teaching you through all these years. You are being prepared not to be impressive, but to be steady when the eyes of others are turned toward you. Today, in this very moment, as you are reading these lines, I am saying to you, I will not abandon you halfway. Every bruise, every stumble, every sleepless night has been taken into account by me. No detail in your life is superfluous. Even the turns that seem like mistakes can be used by me to help you understand more deeply the weakness of your brothers and sisters, so that you know how to bend down rather than look at anyone with condemning eyes. You have been at the bottom of the pit, so when I lift you out and place you on higher ground, you will not forget that everything is grace. That is precisely what makes you a safe instrument in my hand, not relying on yourself, not forgetting the source, not losing a heart of mercy. Therefore, let the lie that says you are too late, too bad, too small fall away today. I am calling you to step out of the old version of yourself, the one that knew only how to look at life with weary and self-blaming eyes. I am opening for you a new chapter, not with dazzling fireworks, but with my spirit quietly kindling a flame in your heart. There, little by little, He will teach you to stand up, to walk, to trust again, to allow yourself to be used as an instrument. This moment is not a meaningless extension of your ending. This is the first page of another part of the book of your life, the part I want to write with you, not in place of you. If all you have left is a small shred of courage, bring it to me. I will use exactly that little bit to set an entire new journey in motion. And you will realize you were never forgotten. You were only being prepared more carefully than you ever imagined. Have you ever tried sitting quietly with yourself for a long time and asked throughout the road I have traveled, how many times has God intervened in silence without my noticing it at all? There were days you were irritated because of traffic jams, because your motorbike broke down halfway, because a train was delayed, because an appointment fell apart at the last minute, and you called those things bad luck, a terrible day. But if I allowed you to see the picture on the other side of those incidents, you would shudder. It may be that the very delay you despised kept you from an accident, from a meeting, from a slip that, had it happened, would have wounded your soul far more deeply. I did not keep you from leaving on time because I wanted to wreck your plans, but because I was protecting something more precious than any schedule, the life and the soul that belong to you. You often dwell on the things you do not have, on the yeses you have waited for and still never hear, on doors you have knocked on again and again that no one opens, on messages you send that seem to receive no reply. You quickly conclude that you are not valued, that I am indifferent, that life has turned its back on you. Yet you do not realize that not every shining opportunity is a blessing, and not everyone who comes knocking on the door of your life brings goodness to your heart. There are certain nods of approval which, if they appeared at the exact moment you longed for them, would open up an entire chain of tragedies. There are relationships which, if you continued in them, would devour your peace and your self-respect. There are jobs which, if you seized at all costs, would lead you far from me and far from your own true self. That is why, at times, I do not respond according to your wishes. Not because I do not love you, but because I see clearly that behind what you call a dream, there is, in fact, a sugar-coated trap. If you knew how many times I have stood between you and a wrong choice, you would stop calling yourself unlucky. Every time you feel that everything is out of sync, off plan, not going the way you wanted, you see only what is right in front of you, while I see the long current that stretches behind it. You may not understand why that door closed, why that person left, why that promise was not fulfilled. But I do. I know what you would become if those things had continued. I see you a few years from now. You many years from now. You in seasons that you cannot even imagine today. Precisely because I see farther, there are moments when I must have the courage to refuse you. Even though I know it hurts you in that instant. True love does not always say yes. Sometimes love is compelled to say no in order to rescue you from the very yes you are demanding at any price. What I long for you to learn is not to force yourself to smile when you are in difficulty, to pretend that you are fine, or to deny your feelings, but to learn how to place events under a different light. Instead of asking, "Why is everything against me?" try asking, "Could it be that I am being kept from something I cannot yet see clearly?" Instead of quickly judging, "I am always the one who is forgotten," try gently whispering, "Perhaps this is the way you are redirecting my path." The questions you ask will shape the way you see life. When you ask in resentment, you will see only injustice. When you ask in trust, your eyes will gradually begin to recognize my traces, the places where my hand has touched your life in hidden ways. You do not have to force yourself to believe all at once, but you can begin with small things. Remember a time in the past when you were angry with me over some disappointment, but many years later, looking back, you had to admit that if everything had happened then exactly as you wished, you would not have the peace you have today. That is the proof that I was protecting you without your knowing it. And if I have done that for you once, I can do it again, and again, and again. I do not change. My heart toward you does not change. It is only you who change the way you interpret what happens. You often demand that I explain why immediately. You want clear answers, this reason, that meaning, this purpose. But my child, many times what you need is not an explanation but a presence. Even the most perfect explanation cannot wipe away the tears on your face. But when you become aware that I am by your side, your pain begins to have room to breathe. You ask me, "Where are you when I am exhausted?" And today, I answer you by my very nearness. I am using these lines to touch the deepest place you have tried to hide. I am not answering you with theories. I am answering you with myself. I am here, in this very moment, in the midst of the countless noises of the world, placing my hand upon your heart and saying, "I am still here. I have never left." You may or may not believe it, but the very fact that you are reading these words is already a sign. Among the millions of things you could scroll past, you stopped here. Among the thousands of concerns that could occupy you, you chose to give time to this conversation. Do you think that is just coincidence? I have used even algorithms, suggestions, and your accidental clicks to open a small pathway into your mind. Because you have grown so accustomed to feeling invisible, I must use very concrete things to show you that I am aiming at you personally, right now. I am not speaking in general, I am speaking in the singular. To the heart that stands before me, to the one who is reading these lines with a weariness no one else fully understands. I know there have been moments when you have told yourself, "What is the point of praying? I keep talking, but no one hears." You imagine that the words you speak in the dark simply dissolve into the air. Yet every whisper of yours is recorded by me, not in some lifeless notebook, but in my very heart. When you sigh without words, I still understand the entire content of that sigh. When all you can manage is, "Oh God," and then fall silent, I hear all the sentences you could not finish. Prayer is not you presenting a report to a distant king. Prayer is the moment when you open a small crack for me to step into your inner world. Every time you lift your heart up, even with a very short word, you are giving me permission to act more deeply. When you choose to believe, even before you see anything change. Heaven and earth have already begun to shift. Your faith is not a passing rush of enthusiasm, but a decision, even though I do not yet understand. I still want to cling to you. I do not stand still before such a decision. There are things I transform at once within your soul, a new strength, a strange peace, a gentleness hard to explain. There are also things I change gradually, one door closing, one relationship cooling, a new opportunity quietly emerging. You may not be able to connect all the pieces, but I know exactly how each step has been turned. Not for a single minute, not for a single second, do I leave you to struggle alone in the dark. You think that many moments in your life are excess, wasted, useless, but in my eyes, not a single second is empty. On the days when you feel you are just getting through, I am still quietly sowing seeds. On the mornings when you wake up heavy and burdened, I still let a ray of light slip through the window to touch your face. On the nights when you think you cannot endure one more moment, and yet somehow you make it through. Still here, still breathing, that, too, is a sign that I have been carrying you, even if you did not realize it. Your perseverance did not appear out of nowhere. It is the result of countless times I have strengthened you in secret. I do not promise you that from now on everything will be smooth and perfect. I do not promise to remove every traffic jam, every unexpected no, every plan turned upside down. But I promise that if you learn to see with the eyes of faith, you will no longer collapse every time things do not go your way. Instead, you will gradually learn to pause and say, perhaps in this situation, God is protecting me in a way I do not yet understand. When you begin to live like that, your faith is no longer a passive waiting, but becomes an active choice, choosing to trust love even when circumstances are unfavorable. Choosing to walk with me instead of merely complaining when you feel held back. Let me read your life with you, section by section. If you allow me to explain your past in the light of mercy, you will be surprised the years you thought were failures will become the foundation of your growth. The disappointments will become milestones marking hidden rescues. The times you were angry with me will become memories for which you are grateful, because through them you were kept from even more dangerous dead ends. I do not change your history, but I can change the way you read it. And when the way you read it changes, the future also opens up in an entirely different direction. Today, I invite you to do something very simple yet very real. Lift your face. Even if your eyes are still wet, take a deep breath. Even if your heart feels cramped, and say to me, even if only in a whisper, I want to believe that you are protecting me, even when I cannot see it. That sentence, small as it seems, is a knock loud enough to open a new season in your soul. From seeing yourself as the victim of every event, you will gradually become my companion in each decision, each turning point. And one day, when you look back, you will understand not a single moment was meaningless, because every second of your life has been touched by me with a love that is patient to the very end. Do you know, after all, I have told you about not standing still anymore, about not just waiting for miracles without taking a step. I want to lead you to a very concrete, very simple image, one that is enough to orient the rest of your life. Imagine your life as a tree, not a flower pot on a windowsill. They're merely for decoration, withered whenever it may be, but a great tree planted in the soil, entrusted with giving shade, shelter, and fruit, with roots that sink deep into the earth. That tree needs one thing above all: it must be near water. For if its roots are sunk only into dry ground, it will survive for a while and then run out of strength. So it is with your soul if you live only on passing emotions, on a few brief moments of inspiration, and nothing more. Without sinking your life deep into my word, you will constantly feel empty, tired, dry, and you will be very easily broken by a gust of wind that is hardly worth mentioning. When I speak to you about cooperation with me, I am not simply telling you be strong and leaving you there. I give you a very concrete path. Let my word become the underground stream that nourishes the whole root system within you. Others may see only the trunk, branches, and leaves, but I see the roots. Others judge you by what you show on the outside. I know what you are living on inside. There are people who outwardly seem full of zeal, speak powerfully, work tirelessly in what is called holy work, yet their roots are not sunk into me, but into praise, achievements, and recognition. Just one drought, a criticism, a failure, an unexpected event is enough to shake the whole tree. But the one who chooses to root themselves in my word is different. They may be less noisy, less noticeable, but deep within is a web of roots, quietly drawing life from me. Day after day, hour after hour, my word is the clear, ever-flowing water at your feet. It is not merely sentences printed on paper, but my breath, my thoughts, the beat of my heart given to you in human language. When you open my word not as you would read a book, but as you would sit before the one who loves you and wants to say something to you today, in this very moment, then each line, each word begins to flow like water into the driest places of your heart. You may not feel anything special the first time you read, but like a tree that drinks water little by little, you too are being nourished without realizing it. Every time you grow still and let one sentence from my word echo within you a few seconds longer, you are allowing the roots of your soul to go a little deeper. Out there is so much noise fighting for your mind, news, social media, endless conversations, endless comparisons. All of that is like swirling winds kicking up dust, leaving your thoughts scattered. My word, however, is the opposite. My word is like a quiet stream flowing at the bottom of your heart, unassuming and silent, yet persistent, steady, crystal clear. If you allow yourself each day to step away from that noise for a little while, just a little, to sit down, take a deep breath and say to me, "Today, please speak to me through your word," you will begin to notice the difference. Your gaze will change. Your reactions will change. The way you look at events will change, not because you are trying to be more positive, but because the water within you has changed. Then, in time, like a tree that has reached its season, you will begin to see fruits quietly appear. Not the glittering things on the surface that people marvel at for a moment and then forget, but the hidden changes in your character, in the way you love, in the way you endure, in the way you forgive. In the past, a single harsh word was enough to make you explode. But now you know how to soften your voice and choose your words. Before, whenever something did not go your way, you were thrown into confusion and resented me. But now you know how to pause, breathe, and ask, "What are you teaching me through this?" Once, you were easily irritated, self-centered, demanding, but slowly a strange gentleness begins to grow within you, a patience you never believed you possessed. These are the first sweet fruits of my word in your life. Others may not know how to name them, but I know every fruit, every fragrance, every seed hidden inside them. You may be surprised to realize that the very situations that used to make you collapse still happen now. But the outcome is no longer the same. The wind still blows, the rain still falls, and at times the storms are even fiercer than before. Yet the difference does not lie in the weather, it lies in the roots. A tree whose roots reach deep to the water source does not fear a long, scorching heat, because beneath the surface there is always moisture. In the same way, when your life is rooted in my word, you will not be emptied by long seasons of drought. You may grow tired, you may weep, you may feel confused, but deep in your heart, you know you are not abandoned. You no longer come to me with a tone of accusation, asking, "Why did you let this happen?" But you speak to me with a faith that still trembles, yet is real. I do not understand everything, but I know you are here. That is the difference between a soul that lives off the surface of its emotions and a soul that lives from the steady stream of my word. When I ask you to trust my word, I am not calling you into blindness. I am calling you to anchor your life in the one thing that does not decay: the world, people, circumstances, even the emotions inside you. Everything changes. Today people may love you, tomorrow they may forget you. Today you may feel full of energy, tomorrow you may only want to lie down and let go. But my word does not rise and fall with your moods. What I have spoken over you, that you are loved, chosen, called, kept, does not change just because of a few events this week. When you hold on to those words, repeating them in your heart and building your house on them, you will walk through days as dark as ink and still keep a light that no one can steal from you. You have often searched for security in the eyes of others, in words of praise, in the sense of safety that money, plans, and relationships seem to bring. I do not blame you, for that is the reflex of a heart that has been wounded and only wants to cling to what it can see. But I want you to go further than that. I want you to know that true security is not found in how many things you can hold on to, but in whose hand you are held. And you only know that you are being held by me when you let my words soak into the way you think, even though you walk through the dark valley. I am still there. Nothing can separate you from my love. I know you through and through. Such words are not slogans. They are anchors for a heart that so easily wavers. You may say, "But I have tried reading your word. I found it difficult to understand, dry, and I felt nothing at all." I hear that, and I understand. A tree newly planted on the first day cannot demand to be tall and full of branches at once. What matters is not how you feel today, but whether you are willing to remain by that stream day after day. There will be times when you open Scripture with an empty heart and tired eyes, and not a single line seems to touch you. Yet it is precisely on those days that the roots of faith are being drawn deeper, not by feelings, but by decisions. You did not run away. You did not go back to the things that so easily excite you yet ruin your soul. You chose to stay with me in the silence, and I never forget that. I am not asking you to become a scholar or to understand every detail at once. I am asking you for one small but very real thing each day. No matter how busy you are, set aside for me a portion of time that you do not share with anyone else. Take up my word as you would take my hand. Read slowly. It is all right to read only a little. But let one sentence linger longer in your heart. Ask me, what are you saying to me here, then, throughout the day? As you work, as you move around, as you feel yourself about to lose your temper or give up. Remember that sentence. That is how your roots drink water. Not loudly, not ostentatiously, but steadily and faithfully. My child, I know you have wandered for many years, walked through many barren seasons, carried many wounds that made you think you were ruined, that it was too late. Yet just as a tree bears on its trunk the rings of its age, each ring a year of sun and storm, you too carry on your being the marks of every stage you have come through. In your eyes, they are the signs of failure. In mine, they are the proof that you are still standing. And if today you decide to move your life away from the dry ground where lies, comparisons, shame, and despair reign and draw nearer to the water source of my word. Then from those rough, weathered rings, I will push up new shoots. From the very places you thought were dead, I will cause green branches to grow. I do not promise you a future without storms. I promise you this, if you let me teach you to live by my word. The storms will no longer define you. You will no longer be merely someone crushed by circumstances, but one who knows how to use each gust of wind to drive your roots deeper. You will no longer only flee from trials, but will learn to stand firm, not by your own strength, but by the strength of the one who has said, I am with you. That is what I long for, you to discover the life of a tree planted in the right place, beside the never-failing stream that is my word. And from there, you will know what it is to live, not merely to survive. Today, as you read these lines, they are also a very gentle, yet very clear invitation. Begin again with me, starting from the simplest place, my word. Let everything you have heard, experienced, stumbled over, and risen from be gathered into one point, putting down roots. Root yourself not in your own wisdom, not in passing feelings, but in my steadfast voice. If you agree, you need only say quietly to me, Lord, from today, please teach me to live beside your word. The rest I will patiently do with you day by day, word by word, step by step. You do not realize that what has shattered within you has never fallen outside my sight. Those evenings when you sit alone in silence, trying to appear normal to the whole world, while inside you feel like a house with its foundations collapsed. I witness every one of them. The relationships you thought would walk with you for a lifetime and suddenly broke without clear reason. The promises people made to you and then swallowed. The phone calls that stopped abruptly. The messages that were never answered. All these are not scraps to be thrown away, nor are they proofs that you are worthless. To me, they are raw material with which I rebuild you in a different way, deeper, truer, more solid. I allow certain things to fall apart, not because I am tired of you, but because I want to uproot what could one day destroy your soul if it were left standing there, looking peaceful on the outside while already rotten within. You have often asked yourself, why does it have to be me? Why do I have to endure abandonment, misunderstanding, being used? Those questions have eaten away at your self-respect, making you feel like a fragile object that anyone can use and then discard. But, my child, I have never looked at you that way. When you are bruised by broken and distorted relationships, I do not stand at a distance to judge. I stand so near that you would only need to turn your head slightly to touch me. Those stumblings, those broken romances, those friendships you could not keep, I do not call them your shame. I call them the end point of a path that was never meant for you. I allow you to hurt, but I do not allow that pain to be meaningless. I use those very torn places to open in you a new way of seeing yourself, of seeing me, and of seeing the worth of a heart that knows how to love but is no longer naive. Right now you may see nothing but the rubble of your life-collapsed plans, shaken faith, weary emotions, a zeal that once burned bright, now reduced to ashes. You feel as though everything is over, beyond repair. But I look at that same scene with completely different eyes. I see a building about to enter its reconstruction phase. I do not build a new house on cracked foundations. I dig down to the roots, reinforcing from beneath, patiently, little by little. I am not in a hurry with you. I lay each foundational stone again. Trust, self-respect, discernment, the courage to say no to what is not good. I inscribe my promises anew on the fresh walls of your soul, so that this time your life will no longer be built on what people say, but on what I have spoken. I do not decorate halfway, I rebuild the whole structure. You think you have wasted so many years chasing things unworthy of you, trying to hold on to people who did not want to stay, only to end up empty-handed. You regret the youth that slipped away in confusion, regret the energy poured into the wrong places, regret the sleepless nights spent trying to preserve something that you now clearly see did not come from me. You call those years wasted, thrown away, a meaningless detour in your life. But I do not call them that. In my eyes, not a single one of your days has been discarded. Even in the years when you lost your way, I was quietly sowing seeds into them, a sensitivity to the pain of others, real-life experience, awareness of hidden traps, the capacity to empathize with those who have fallen as you have. You thought you had gathered only wounds, but in truth you have gathered a treasure, the treasure of a heart that is no longer superficial. I know you still carry the thought, if I had not taken that wrong turn, I would probably be much better now. You compare yourself with this person and that person, those who seem to have walked the right path from the beginning, stumbling less, breaking less. You wonder whether I still want to use you. When your journey has been so uneven and tangled, I want to answer you plainly. I do not merely still want to use you. I intend to use those very twists and turns as material for your mission. What you see as detours, I will turn into channels of grace for others. The mistakes you are ashamed of, if you let me purify them, will become a language that enables you to reach hearts stuck in the very places where you once fell. I do not erase your past, I sanctify it. What I am about to do in the coming seasons of your life is not just to pay you back in a mechanical way. I do not calculate with you the way people calculate wages for however many years were lost. The same number of years will be returned. I do more than that. I can gather up the lessons, the tears, the times you collapsed from exhaustion, and press them into an inner strength that easy peace could never produce. I can open doors for you that make you exclaim, if I had not gone through those dark years, I would never have had the depth to step into today. I will lead you into encounters with me, moments when you see my hand intervening so clearly that you cannot possibly call it coincidence. Then you will understand that the long nights, the prayers you thought had been swallowed up, the sobs no one heard, have all been gathered by me. Not a single fragment lost. That is why I beg you not to give up at this moment. You are standing at the stretch of road on which many have turned their backs, the stretch between weariness and breakthrough, between wanting to let go and being on the verge of glory. You feel as if you have changed so little, but I see the quiet shifts inside you, the small decisions. You do not notice the time you chose to pray instead of venting your anger, the time you kept silent instead of reacting according to your old instincts, the time you dared to face the truth instead of running away. I see it all. Do not despise those small steps. It is from those movements that seem invisible that a transformation is slowly being formed. A tree does not grow up in a single morning. It grows through countless hidden days of drawing sap from the depths of the soil. You do not need to leap in a giant step to come to me. I do not demand of you a dramatic about-face in order for me to receive you. I ask you for only one small movement, an honest whisper, a simple help me from the deepest place of your heart, a very modest yet sincere resolve. You may still be trembling, still doubting, still carrying wounds that have not fully healed. It is all right. Just move. One very small step toward me is enough for me to run toward you. My love does not stroll slowly, it runs. The moment you barely dare to lift your foot off the ground, I am already ready to cross the rest of the distance to gather you into my arms. You do not have to walk this whole journey in your own strength. There is a feast of honor that I am preparing just for you, a place with only your name written on it, which no one else can claim. It is not a feast of illusion or show, but a feast of true peace, of inner freedom, of you sitting down without having to pretend you are all right. On that table I will set before you things you have never dared to ask for restoration within your heart. Healthy relationships, a clear sense of calling, the capacity to love without destroying yourself. I am not inviting you there to hear your faults recounted. I am inviting you to hear me speak again, your true identity. You are my child, not the product of your falls. When you step into that place and look back, you will see that even the stretches you cursed and the turns you wished you could erase from your memory all join together into a meaningful path. You will come to recognize what you now find hard to accept. What you called punishment was, in fact, my hand keeping you from the abyss. What you called abandonment was really me pulling you out of places where my presence was no longer recognized by you. What you called the end was actually the first page of a new chapter. You have looked at everything from below and drawn hasty conclusions, but from above. I keep on writing when you think the story is already closed. I am not saying these things merely to soothe you for the moment, or so that you can be temporarily at ease and yet go on living as before. I speak to prepare your heart for a real change of season. There will come a time when, if you agree to let me lead you, you will no longer live with the question, why did that happen to me? But you will begin to ask, how can I use what has happened to love and serve better? When the question in your heart changes, you will clearly see that your heart has been rebuilt. The old cracks are still there, but they no longer throb with pain. They become the lines of a pattern that shows the vessel has passed through fire without shattering. Hold on to this as a sure promise. I do not forget your tears. I do not waste the years that seemed useless. I do not brush aside the days when you forced a smile while your soul was falling apart. All of it will be gathered into the work I am building. One day, when you look back, you will not say, I wish that had never happened, but you will whisper, if I had not walked through that dark stretch, I would not know how near the Lord is today. And then you will understand waiting is not an empty, meaningless span, but a bridge that carries you from the old self into the new life in me. Therefore, even if nothing seems to have clearly changed yet, even if the story of your life is still full of lines you do not want to read again, I still invite you to believe this. I am at work in the silence. I am reshaping your inner structure. I am preparing a future you cannot yet imagine, and I am waiting not for you to be perfect, but for the moment when you believe that with me, no chapter of your life is ever the final one. My child, long before you understood what a promise is, I had already bent down over your life and placed a covenant upon it. I am not the kind who speaks today and forgets tomorrow, who remembers you when in a good mood and abandons you when sad. I do not change my heart according to emotions, and I do not measure my love by what you manage to do or what you fail to do. My love for you does not rest on performance, nor on outward piety, and it is not shaken by your missteps. I love you simply because you are you, the child I have called by name from eternity, even if you have chosen wrong turns, even if there have been times when you were angry, shouting, accusing me, even if there came a day when you wanted to turn your back on me. In my heart you have always remained in the same place in the arms I have never let go. You look at the chain of mistakes and conclude that you have ruined everything. You see only a heap of ruins and call it, it's over. But as I look at those very fragments, I see material for the beginning of something new. I am the one who knows how to gather up shattered pieces of life that seem impossible to fit together and shape them into another form, truer, deeper, more beautiful. The chapters of your life that you most want to erase, to tear from your memory, are precisely the pages I want to use to write a story that, when you read it later, will move you to tears because you will know you were never abandoned. You think the book of your life is nearly at its ending, But with me, you are only in the middle of the journey. The most radiant pages are still the ones you have not yet turned. I do not stand there to judge every little fault of yours, nor do I hold a notebook to record each of your mistakes and later cross-examine you with them. I am not like the faces you once displeased, who then turned away, silent and cold. I am the God of mercy, the one who patiently sits by the rubble longer than anyone else. When people walk away one by one because they find your life too messy, too exhausting, I remain, sitting beside you, not noisy, not ostentatious, simply waiting in silence until you are tired enough to stop resisting, to stop proving yourself, to stop straining to show that you are fine. I do not see your flaws as a reason to reject you. On the contrary, I want to use those very cracks as places where my light can pass through to reach hearts that are still lost in the darkness you once knew. There are things you have done that even you cannot forgive, and you think I must loathe you as much as you loathe yourself. But I want you to know that I see deeper. I see the weakness, the impulsiveness, the wounds beneath those actions, and I have come not to add another sentence of condemnation, but to lead you out of that vicious circle. You have been carrying on your shoulders so many things that do not belong to you: accusations, shame, the haunting of the past, the fear that you will never be good enough for me to use. You can hardly breathe anymore, yet you are afraid to let go, because you think that if you do not cling to these burdens, nothing will be left of you. You confuse what is familiar with what is safe. You hold tightly to your pain because it has been with you for so long that you have mistaken it for part of your identity. But my child, your true identity is not found in what you have done wrong, nor in the way people have treated you. Your true identity lies in my calling you beloved, in the fact that I have rescued you time and again from the abysses into which you yourself ran. I do not want you to drag those invisible chains any longer. I want you to try, just once, only once, to lay your burden down from your shoulders at my feet and let me be the one who carries it. Try it, right now, wherever you are, in a cramped rented room, on a weary journey, in the restroom of a hard-pressed workplace, or on a damp bed in a day of illness. You do not need to kneel in the proper posture. You do not need to choose lofty words. You only need to take one deep breath. Call my name in your heart and say to me honestly, I'm tired. At the very moment you dare to say that, you are stepping out of the position of someone who must carry everything alone into the place of a child who knows they have a father. You cannot control the whole future. You cannot rewrite the past. You cannot purify your own soul. But I can. The issue has never been my ability, but whether you will allow me to intervene more deeply in your life. I have knocked on the door of your heart many times in situations you thought were mere coincidences, a story you happened to hear, a verse of scripture someone posted, a song that came on at just the right moment, a comforting message from the person you least expected. All these are ways I have been saying to you, I am still here. You have never been beyond my reach. The things you think you have lost have not vanished into nothing. The dreams, the calling, the good things I sowed into your heart from your earliest days have not died. They may be sleeping, they may be buried under piles of disappointment, covered over by wrong choices, but in my sight they are still there, waiting for the day I awaken them at the right time. What belongs to you in my plan cannot be stolen by any power. What I open, no one can shut. What I shut, no one can force open. The only thing that can delay, hinder, or slow this journey is your own fear and stubbornness. When you insist that you have missed your chance, you are binding your own hands, while I am reaching out mine to invite you to rise. I am keeping what is meant for you in my time, in my rhythm, not on the schedule by which you compare yourself to others. When the time comes, you will be amazed that such completeness is not something you snatched for yourself, but something I gently placed into your hands. I want you to learn one thing: letting go is not giving up. Letting go is admitting that you are not the god of your own life. There are doors you have knocked on until your knuckles were sore, yet I did not open them. It is not because I am cruel, but because I see what lies behind those doors, and you do not. There are people you wanted to keep at any cost, yet I allowed them to leave. It is not because I want you to be lonely, but because I know that if they stayed, they would pull your soul even farther from me. I love you too much to indulge such things. You think you have failed because you could not hold on, but in truth I have won because I did not let you remain bound any longer. Let me decide what needs to be cut off, what needs to be kept, what needs to wait, and what needs to open. Your part is not to scramble for control, but to trust and obey in the small steps. Close your eyes for just a moment, not to run away from reality, but to step into a deeper reality that your ordinary eyes cannot see. The very moment you lower your eyelids, everything around you may still be noisy, cramped, suffocating, but inside, I want to lead you out of the storm into a place of peace. Imagine you are resting your head on my shoulder. You do not need to say much. You only need to let your heart draw near to mine. I want you to feel my unhurried heartbeat so that you may know I am not panicking before the chaos of your life. I am calm because I know exactly what I am doing. I am steady because I know nothing lies outside my control. My love for you is not flying somewhere far away, nor locked inside some obscure doctrine printed on paper. It is right where you are breathing. It wraps around you like a warm blanket, slipping into those frozen places no human embrace has ever been able to touch. I do not promise that when you open your eyes, every debt will disappear. Every relationship will instantly feel easy. Every wound on your body will dissolve as if it had never been. But I promise you something even more important. You will no longer be the one who walks alone. I will be there in every deep breath you take each morning when you wake, in each small decision you must make throughout the day, in every tear that falls when no one else can see. I will be there when you try one more time, when you choose to forgive for the 7th time, the 70th time, when you hold back a sentence that would wound another, when you turn off the things that drag you down. All those little things, if you do them in communion with me, will become strong steps leading you out of a passive kind of faith. You will not walk away from this encounter the same as when you came. If you truly open your heart, I do not need you to feel a current of electricity running through your body or to witness some spectacular sign to prove that I am at work. The deepest changes often begin very quietly, a thought that feels a little lighter, a decision that becomes a little gentler, a tiny ray of hope that is more persistent than yesterday. That is the very first miracle I want to do today, to soften your heart so that it is willing to believe again, to love again, to step out again. From there, everything else will gradually be put in order. My child, I have already laid my hand upon your life, and I am not taking it back. The words I have spoken over you do not fall to the ground in vain. The years that seem to have been aimless do not make me change my mind. Your mistakes are not strong enough to break the plan I have for you. All I need is that from today, from this very moment, you dare to say to me, I truly want to walk with you, not just with my emotions anymore. And I will begin to turn things around, not with a loud raging storm, but with a quiet, persistent underground stream, strong enough to change the course of an entire river. You do not need to understand everything. You only need to take my hand, step by step, so that I can teach you to live a faith that cooperates instead of only waiting. The rest Leave it to me. In the depths of you, in that place you thought had grown numb to feeling, where you once told yourself, nothing new is ever going to happen in my life anymore, there is now a very small but very real movement, like an underground spring that has just been cleared after years of being pressed down by rocks. Even if you cannot name it, you can still sense a very gentle warmth threading its way into those inner places that were once ice cold. A thin but persistent beam of light piercing through the thick layers of fog you have lived with for so long. This is not you trying to psych yourself up, nor is it some kind of blind optimism. It is me gently touching the deepest place within you and awakening what you yourself thought was dead, your faith and your hope. You may not hear my voice clearly as you hear another person speaking, but in those moments when you sit alone without knowing why you suddenly want to lift your eyes, in those moments when you unexpectedly pause before an old, familiar choice and whisper, "What if this time I try something different?" That is exactly when I am speaking to your soul that this journey is not over, that your story does not end in the chapter of brokenness, and that I have never once left my place beside you. Not even for a single moment. You cannot begin to imagine what I am about to do in your life, because if I unveiled before your eyes the whole plan I am weaving, you would hardly be able to believe that all of it is being prepared for someone who once thought themselves as small and useless as you. Behind the curtain you call silence. A whole work is being built, the encounters you think are coincidences, the doors you believed were shut forever, but whose hinges are slowly being oiled. The ties that seemed impossible to loosen but are gradually slackening. Your natural eyes do not yet see it, but the deepest part of your soul has already sensed it. And that is why in these recent days you have felt strangely restless, no longer at ease, repeating the same old ways of living, no longer fine with always hiding. Something is stirring inside you, both a little frightening and quietly filling you with expectation. And I tell you that this restlessness is not meaningless anxiety, but a signal I am sending. It is a message that a new season is shifting in, that the time has come for you to lift your head once more, the time to dare to pick up the dreams you thought were shattered, the time to stop organizing your life around your wounds, your inferiority, your failures, and begin to arrange your heart according to my design. For the moment of fulfillment is not as far away as you have imagined. The months and years of waiting that seemed dull and boring, just a string of repetitive days, have in fact been quietly shaping you, bending the stiff places, softening the hardened parts, peeling away the layers of illusion that, if you still clung to them, would cause you to harm yourself when I raise you up. The silent hours when you thought I had turned my back were in reality the moments I was teaching you to distinguish between what you want and what your soul truly needs. The pains that left you feeling you barely had strength to breathe have greatly matured your inner life, making you more compassionate, less judgmental, more willing to stoop low to understand others. All of that, though not glamorous, is the soil on which you can now truly bloom in a way that, with your former shallow and impatient self, you were never ready for. I know you have gone through winters so long that you thought your life had no other season. Stretches of time when every plan fell like dead leaves. Every zeal cooled and hardened like ashes. Those were the seasons when you looked in the mirror and saw a tired face, eyes no longer shining as before, and you murmured, "Maybe I'm past the age to begin. Maybe I'm too late to change. I have no strength left to live a different life." But my child, I am the one who is not limited by numbers on a clock or lines on a face. I do not look at you through the measuring rod society sticks on people. I specialize in opening paths where there seem to be none, in raising up what others have dusted off as beyond hope, in awakening callings buried deep under the ashes of discouragement and shame. I do not feel awkward in front of your weariness, nor am I annoyed that you have spent so many years wandering. I simply see before me a person who, though scarred, can still be reshaped, a heart which, though once broken, can still beat with a new rhythm. I rejoice when I see that. Although you have wanted to give up many times, there is still a very small corner in your heart that longs to begin again. That very corner is where I am breathing my fire. Pay attention, and you will see lately. When you hear someone speak about renewal, about a fresh start, about returning to me, you are no longer indifferent as before. Something in you throbs. There are moments you have to fight back tears, simply because you do not want anyone to see you as weak. Those fleeting moments are not passing emotions. They are signs I am giving you that my spirit is knocking at your door, is gently vibrating the string that has lain silent for so many years in your soul. If you are willing to listen, you will realize that my voice is not a shout, nor a harsh demand, but the warm voice of the one who patiently waits for you. The voice that says, "Get up. I still have work to do with you. I still have ground I want to entrust to you to till. I still have people who need the light I will kindle through your life." These past years, even though you felt you were just surviving from day to day, have actually been molding you so that now you are no longer as hungry for victory as before, no longer driven to prove yourself as before, but instead carry a simple yet profound desire to live the true meaning for which you were created, to step out of the vicious circle of sin and fear, to use your own broken story to comfort those who are broken as you once were. It is precisely when your heart begins to have such desires that I say, now it is time. Now you are ripe enough for me to entrust to you what I could not give you before, not because I am stingy, but because I did not want you to be crushed under the weight of blessing. I do not promise you that from now on there will be no more tears, for I did not create a numb world where everything always flows according to your wishes. But I promise you that from this moment forward, every tear you shed will have meaning. Each step you take will no longer be the step of someone walking in aimlessness, but the step of someone being led. Every hardship you meet will no longer be a hammer blow meant to shatter you, but a sculptor's chisel tapping gently to carve a new face within you. You may feel you are not ready enough, but you do not need to be perfect to begin. You only need to say honestly to me, I want to step forward. Even though my feet still tremble, I want to believe. Even though my heart still bears many cracks, I want to cooperate with you. Even though I do not yet know what I will have to let go of, and I will not overlook that small whisper. From many directions I am sending you signals, a reminder in a homily you happen to hear, a verse of scripture you stumble upon again, a friend saying something to you that feels as if it were spoken straight into your heart. These details are not meaningless. They are the arrows I am shooting into the thick wall you have built, arrow after arrow, until the day that wall begins to crack. And when you look at all these things, you will realize that it is not you who are making your way back to me by your own strength, but that I have been seeking you through all the long distance of your wandering. And now, as you barely begin to turn around, I am already right here. So do not let thoughts like I am too late, I am too tired, I have nothing left to offer steal from you the chance to witness what I am about to do. Because I do not need a person overflowing with strength, I need a heart willing to let me lead. It does not matter how old you are, how many years you have wasted, how many mistakes you have made. For to me, the day you allow me to take your hand is the true beginning of the journey. And today, as you read these words, this is not a coincidence. It is proof that I am beginning a new chapter in the story of your life, a chapter in which pain is no longer the title, but grace and hope will be the main lines written on the fresh page I am placing before you. One day, when you look back at the thorny path you are walking today, you will realize you are no longer the trembling person you once were. The very things that seemed to crush you have actually made your back straighter. your gaze steadier, your heart soft, yet no longer weak as before. Right now you can only feel sweat, tears, and questions that have no answers yet. But as time passes, you will see clearly that every dark bend in the road carried a deeper purpose. No valley is wasted in my hands, even in the lowest place, where you thought you had hit the bottom of despair. I have still been quietly, diligently sowing hidden seeds for your day of resurrection. It is precisely when you open your heart to listen and allow the truth I speak to touch you that invisible chains begin to snap. The bonds you carry in your thoughts, the bitter conclusions you have drawn about yourself, about me, about life, are being undone little by little. You do not need to feel anything spectacular to believe that freedom is already at work. Often chains break in silence, and a prison door opens with a very small yes inside your heart. Change is not always loud, but it is real. And the very moment you allow me to touch you, the dungeon within has already begun to crack. I know that after all you have been through, you have promised yourself that you will never let anyone come close again. The shattering made you believe you could only survive by building walls that are very thick, locking every door, leaving only a narrow slit open for the bare minimum of interaction. You have concluded that love is the same as being hurt, that trusting is the same as being betrayed, that opening your heart is the same as leading yourself into an emotional slaughterhouse. I do not blame you for thinking that way. I see every knife that has been driven into you, every word that has made you bleed inside. But today, I am gently gathering back the silent curses you have carelessly spoken over your own life. The words you have said that do not reflect my will. I will never trust anyone again. I am not worthy of love. I was born only to be abandoned. I have not come to judge you for those words, but to remove them from around your neck the way a person loosens a rope that has strangled them for a long time. I want to restore to you the capacity to love that you thought had died, to restore to you the ability to trust that you believed had been shattered, to restore to you the tenderness you have had to hide for so many years for fear of being taken advantage of. It is true that there were people who should have protected you but were instead the first to push you to the ground. It is true that there were embraces that were only a prelude to abuse, promises that were only a cover for betrayal, the names you no longer want to hear, the faces you do not want to remember, the places you dare not return to. All of them have been burned deep into your memory like scorched marks on wood. Your trust may have been exploited, your kindness trampled on, your life turned into a game in other people's hands. But listen carefully to what I say. All of that speaks of who they are. It does not define who you are. You were not born to be a permanent victim in someone else's story. You were not created to spend the rest of your life under the shadow of the wrongs they have done to you. I do not call you by the name of your wounds. I call you by the name I had in mind for you before you were formed in your mother's womb. In my eyes, you are not the one who was betrayed. You are the one I have chosen to love in a special way, to lift up, to use as a living testimony of restoration. I want to draw you out of the distorted mirror that your past has set up in front of you. In that mirror, you see only a person who is always lacking, always wrong, never enough. But if you knew how I look at you, you would be astonished. I do not look at you with a scrutinizing gaze. I look at you the way an artisan looks at the work still in progress in his hands, though it is still smudged. In my vision, it is already complete, already beautiful, already radiant. Every time you collapse and think, I am worth nothing, I whisper again, you are far more precious than you realize. Every time you say, no one really cares about me, I remind you, my eyes have never left you. There are moments when you feel utterly alone. But if I were to let you see the spiritual realm, you would understand that you have never taken a single step in solitude. If I were to draw back the invisible curtain between heaven and earth and let you watch your life like a fast-forwarded film, you would be stunned to see how many times I have intervened. You would see the times you happened to be a few minutes late, and those very minutes kept you from an accident. You would recognize how the relationships you once suffered over because you could not hold on to them were in fact ties that would have dragged you deeper into manipulation had they continued. You would see the jobs you so badly wanted but whose doors slammed shut in front of you, later exposed as environments that crushed people's dignity or slowly eroded their souls. And there were so many times, while you were asleep and still breathing heavily in and out, that I kept you from the dark thoughts that wanted to devour you. I placed beside you a person, a line of text, a small sound just enough so that you would not do something foolish. If you knew all of this, you would no longer have the strength to keep on resenting. You would only be able to fall silent and worship. Even the doors whose closing has caused you the deepest pain are known to me. There are things I have shut because I am jealous for your soul. I do not want you to trade your soul just to keep someone from leaving. I do not want you to pay with your peace in order to buy a little feeling of being needed. I do not want you to sacrifice all your values just to remain in a place where you must constantly beg for love. So I have had the courage to close those doors, even while you wept. True love sometimes has to accept being misunderstood. I have accepted your blame and your anger in exchange for your long-term safety. And one day, when you are mature enough to see the bigger picture, you will know you have been kept from chasms that, had you fallen into them, your soul would have taken a very long time to climb out of. I do not only protect you from what is harmful, I also quietly keep back good things that I know are meant for you. But not yet. The dreams you once carried, the plans you thought had dissolved, the pure desires you believed had died, I still have them, stored carefully in my treasury. Not every delay is a sign of failure. Often, it is my way of hiding something so that no one can touch it before you arrive at the right time. You think you have lost everything, but in reality there are things I, myself, have hidden away so they would not be stained, not be taken by others, not be ruined by your own hands at a time when you were not ready. You call it loss, I call it temporary separation. You call it the end of all chances, I call it being set to rise, like a seed lying still in the soil. Many things in your life are in a season of being buried. From the surface, it looks like death, nothing to be seen, no movement, no sign. But from my perspective, it is a necessary step so that life can burst forth more strongly. I let some of your desires go to sleep so that they will not be bent by ambition, distorted by ego, or stained by deep wounds that have not yet healed. When you cry out, "Why are you not doing anything? I am still at work," it is only that you cannot see it yet. I am adjusting your heart, sanding down the sharp edges inside, slowly drawing you out of the mindset that if I want it, I must have it immediately, so that you can learn to trust me more than you trust the timelines of this world. I do not promise you that everything you want will be returned exactly as it was. Some things I will keep, some I will replace entirely, and some I will send far away to make room for something better to come. But I promise that whatever truly belongs to you within my good purposes, no one can steal. Your true honor, your true calling, the healthy relationships I have prepared, the opportunities I know will help you grow, all of these are in my hands. And my hands are not clumsy. I do not drop your blessings along the way. I am only waiting for your heart to be ready to receive them without using them to fill the empty spaces in the wrong places. Today, I am not asking you to understand everything before you can be at peace. I am simply inviting you to take one small but decisive step instead of repeating over and over. Why do all these terrible things happen to me? Try asking a different question. How many times have you rescued me from things even worse? When the question changes, your gaze changes too. When you begin to look at your life through gratitude instead of only through resentment, the old chains will start to weaken. Complaint binds you. Thanksgiving unlocks the prison door. It is not that I need your praise to feel less sad. I invite you to give thanks because I know that in that very act, your own soul is freed from the twisted, dark lens that has kept you cramped inside for so long. I do not deny that you have passed through many injustices, but neither do I accept that injustice should become the core of your identity. I am continuing to write your story in a different direction, not the story of someone forever crushed by the past, but of someone who stands up in the light even while bearing scars. Those scars, I do not erase so that you forget. I let them remain so that whenever you see them, you remember that you were once there, but you are no longer held there. You will tell your story, not with a bitter voice, but with a deep calm. Yes, I was wounded, but in the midst of it all, God stepped in and redirected my life. So do not rush to draw conclusions about your future while you are still standing in a narrow corridor. You have only gone through one chapter, not the whole book. Do not use the most painful page to measure the entire story. I am right beside you in the hardest to read chapter, making sure that this page will not be the last one. You will come out, not as a trembling survivor, but as someone who understands how deeply they have been saved. You will come out not empty-handed, but carrying a heart that has been deepened, eyes that look at others with compassion, and a faith that is no longer shallow. And when you tell your story, many will recognize themselves in it, and they will open their hearts to me because of what they see I have done in your life. I am taking responsibility for my part, guarding, intervening, healing, preparing. Now I invite you to take responsibility for your part, to choose to believe instead of continuing to feed words of condemnation, to choose to hand me your pain instead of holding it like a shield, to choose gratitude in the midst of what you do not yet understand instead of demanding to see everything before you dare to trust. As those choices are repeated day after day, little by little, the old chains will fall away. You will no longer be defined by what others have done to you, but by the one who has never abandoned you in any circumstance. And there you will know a truth that every darkness hates to hear. You have never been forgotten for even a single moment in my sight. You are simply being shaped into a version of yourself far stronger and freer than the person you ever thought you could become. When you begin to do more than sit and lament, when you are willing to take small steps with me, when you stop merely waiting for a miracle to fall from the sky and instead open your heart and change the things I am pointing out. In that very moment, what seemed motionless for so long will also begin to move. You will not notice it at once, but in the spiritual realm, many bolts have already turned. Many locks have loosened. Many gates you once pounded on until your hands were sore are now shifting from the inside. I have been patiently waiting for your cooperation, waiting for you to step out of resignation. And when your heart dares to say yes even while it is still trembling, that is when I begin to push open the doors that seemed rusted shut in your life. You will witness things that will surprise even you, paths that once seemed to hold nothing but no, not yet, and maybe later will suddenly yield different answers. The refusals of the past will give way to new invitations. Doors that once slammed in your face, making you believe you were not allowed to enter, will now open naturally as though they had always belonged to your journey. It will not be because you suddenly became more capable or perfect overnight, but because my time has come and your heart has been shaped so that you know how to cross the threshold without losing yourself. You will also begin to see people who once did not see you, who once considered you only as the last choice or not a choice at all, now starting to return, to ask after you, to need your presence, your counsel, or the calling upon your life. In the past, they may have overlooked you, because at that time you were still absorbed in your pain. doubting yourself, belittling yourself. But now the light I have placed within you has begun to blaze from the inside, and that light has its own attraction. People will seek you out, not so much because of your name, your talents, or your appearance, but because they sense in you something different: depth, peace, a spring of water where they themselves have been dry for so long. Do not be too bewildered when those who were once indifferent now return, but do not take that as a chance to prove the worth of your old self. Remember that they are being drawn by what I have sown in you, not by the illusory glory that the world exalts. The barren places in your life, in your finances, in your relationships, in your inner capacities, in your dreams, will also slowly be watered again. The areas where you have always lived in a mindset of lack, fear, clutching every little bit because you were afraid there would not be enough, will begin to taste a strange kind of sufficiency, not an excess that invites waste, but a right enough portion so that you no longer have to live in panic. I will change the way you experience lack and enough. You will realize that enough does not mean having everything others have, but having what you need to live faithfully to your calling. What was once scarce will gradually blossom, not so that you might mistake yourself for the center, but so that you may know I have never had the heart to abandon you in the desert. I want you to engrave this deeply. All the new movements you are about to see are not a reward for your perfection. I do not sit on high grading you before I give grace. If everything were based on merit, no one could stand before me. What you are about to receive is the fruit of my faithfulness to my own promise and of your willingness to let me teach you through those years that seemed so silent. I pour out grace not because you are worthy by the standards of the world, but because my very nature is mercy, because I have begun a journey in you and I do not wish to leave it unfinished. This will keep you from pride and also save you from shame. But I also want you to grasp something deeper. I am not making all things new merely so that you can have a more comfortable life. I lift you up not so that you can sit on a high platform and savor your achievements. I rescue you from many dead ends, not only so that you can sigh in relief and close the chapter. I am turning you into a river, not a reservoir. My grace flows into your life so that it may flow on through you to others. When your heart is healed, that is not just a private gift, it is an invitation for you to become a shelter for those who carry the same wounds you once carried. When a door is opened for you, you are invited to loosen the locks for those still standing outside, trembling as you once did. Therefore, when blessings begin to take clearer shape, you must all the more remember the source of everything. I know how easily the human heart can be puffed up by the yeast of pride. A little success, a few compliments, a handful of recognition from people can already be enough for you to forget the tears you once shed in secret, to forget how you once cried out to me in the night. Pride does not appear all at once. It slips in through the smallest of thoughts. I did this on my own. I am better than they are. Without me, this would not work. I warn you not to frighten you, but to protect precisely what I am building. For the moment, arrogance finds a way in. The humble things that have taken so long to construct will begin to crack. Do not let new blessings become an invisible yoke, dragging you back into slavery to the self. I will still go on lifting you up, placing you in spaces where you once never thought you could stand. But I want your feet to remain aware that the ground beneath you is grace, not a launch pad you forged for yourself. I want you to step forward without drowning in illusions about who you are. I want you to keep vivid in your memory the days when you sat at the bottom, so that when someone down there looks up, you know how to bend down rather than stand above and judge. The true value of my raising you up does not lie in how many people know your name, but in how you live among the people you meet each day, whether you remain gentle with the weak, patient with the slow to change, and humble before those who seem smaller than you. The message you are hearing today is not some random phrase you stumbled across to pass the time. I have used many detours, many moments when you scrolled past, many notifications that popped up and that you dismissed, to reach this exact moment when you no longer turn away. This is not just a few pleasant lines to help you feel less sad on a weary evening. This is a signal I am sending into your soul, like a touch that awakens. It is not merely encouragement, it is a summons. I am calling you by name, reminding you of a calling you have let gather dust because of disappointment, because of waiting too long, because you have come to think you no longer fit. Within you there is a part that seems to have died, the trust you once had, the courage to take a step even when you could not see the whole path, the conviction that I can do what people deem impossible. Through many stumblings, that faith has been wounded, mocked, labeled naive. You once set it aside in a corner and locked it away so that you would not have to be disappointed yet again. But today I am laying my hand on that very corner and saying, rise. Your faith has not been lost, it has only been lying still, waiting for a call. And now that call is sounding. I am not calling it back to the impulsive form of earlier days, but so that it may grow, become more mature, and learn to rest its foundation on me rather than on fleeting feelings. From here on, you will begin to notice small changes that carry great weight. It will not be that all your problems suddenly disappear. Rather, right in the midst of those very difficulties, you will receive new signals, an unexpected door, a conversation you thought would never happen, a sudden idea that unravels the knot that has kept you stuck for so long. You will see coincidences pile up to the point where you can no longer call them vague luck. I do not perform magic tricks. I work quietly but consistently. Everything you see is the result of a process that you and I have walked through together in silence. There are desires you have tucked away in the deepest drawer of your heart, telling yourself not to think about them anymore, because every time you do, it hurts again. You once prayed for your family to be healed, for a relationship to be restored, for a harmful habit to be broken, for a dream that seemed far beyond your reach. Many years have passed, and you grew discouraged, assuming that I had not heard. But I have never thrown those whispered prayers away. They rest in my heart, not in a trash bin. Now, according to a timing only I fully understand, some of those things will begin to unfold, but in the way that is safest for your soul. Not everything you want will be granted exactly as you imagine it. I will only bring to completion what will truly lead you into real life. And all of this will not unfold in dramatic fire and smoke like in a movie. I do not need spectacle to prove that I am powerful. I delight in acting through steps that are very precise, very purposeful, often so quiet that only those who pay attention will notice. You will see me in a small door that opens at just the right moment, in your mind suddenly becoming clear where it was always tangled before, in an old wound that suddenly no longer pierces you as it once did. Others may not notice right away, may not cheer loudly for you, but you will know. You will recognize my footprints on the sand of your life. Within you there will also be a renewal deeper than any outward success. You will wake up and find that you speak fewer words that belittle yourself and more words of trust. Your first reflex in the face of difficulty will no longer be, I guess I give up, but will slowly become, show me how to take the next step. You will no longer instantly flee into your old escapes whenever you are tired, hiding in social media, in gloomy thoughts, in self-blame, but will begin to know how to pause, to breathe, and to call my name. My spirit will patiently adjust each lens in your mind, the lens through which you see yourself, others, and events. What you once always interpreted in the worst possible way, you will gradually read again in a new light. The very things that once made you tremble will become places where you find inspiration, You will no longer see the dark seasons of your life as boulders crushing you, but as raw material for telling a story that has the power to lift others up. Old failures will no longer serve as topics for you to shame yourself, but as the backdrop where my mercy is revealed. What you once called a full stop will be shown to have been only a comma in the text I am writing. You will still remember the past, but not with a sadness that imprisons you. You will remember it with gratitude, because through it you have become gentler, deeper, more real. And then one day you will suddenly realize, this is the most beautiful season of my life. Not beautiful because everything has become smooth and storm-free, but beautiful because, for the first time, you see that you are no longer alone in the storm. Beautiful because the things that once had the power to knock you down no longer hold such power. Beautiful because you have stopped asking, why is all this happening to me, and have begun to ask, how can I walk with you in this situation? The beauty of the new season does not lie in the scenery outside, but in the inner eyes that have been washed clean to recognize my footprints at every turn. I am calling you into this phase not with a promise that there will be no more challenges, but with the assurance that in every event I will not abandon you. You only need to keep your heart soft before me, your hands open toward others, and your gaze lifted upward instead of always fixating on what you lack. You have lived too long in a defensive stance, waiting for life to hit you again. Now is the time for you to learn to live as one who walks with an unchanging God. Be ready, you will not be living as you did before. And when you doubt, remember that I am the one who has walked with you through the lowest parts. And so I will also be there when you step into the more glorious chapters of this story. In this moment, be still, take a deep breath, and softly offer up to me the prayer that rises from the deepest place in your heart, without hiding, without defending yourself. Just you and me alone. Almighty God, I come before your holy presence with a heart that has so often been troubled by delays, by closed doors, by dreams that seem to have died. So many times I have thought I was forgotten on the margins of your plan, that the passing years were proof you no longer cared about me. Today, as I hear you remind me that this has been a time of preparation and not abandonment, my heart feels both lighter and pierced. Lighter, because I am comforted; pierced, because I realize how long I have misunderstood you. Please grant me the courage to step out of my old way of seeing, out of the habit of condemning myself and lamenting my lot. Open my eyes to recognize that what you have withheld was not because I was unworthy, but because you feared I would be crushed by burdens I was not yet mature enough to carry. Gently reshape my heart, so that instead of asking, why haven't you given this to me yet, Lord, I may learn to ask, what are you teaching me in this time of waiting? I surrender back to you every unfinished expectation, every dream I thought was ruined, every page of my life I believed was already crossed out. Please come in and rewrite them according to your loving purpose, so that from now on I will no longer fear the silent stretches of the journey, but will trust that in the quiet, you are still preparing what is best for my soul. Father, source of my life, deep within, I sense a strange wind beginning to blow through my soul. There are moments when I feel unsteady inside, on the verge of tears for reasons I cannot quite name. I only know I can no longer go on living as I did before. I understand that this is not just a passing emotion, but the gentle call of the Holy Spirit waking me from an inner numbness. Please help me not to silence that call with busyness, with empty entertainments, with the I'm fine masks I keep putting on. Teach me to treasure every stirring of my heart when I hear about you, to hold on to the moments when I feel truly touched, instead of letting them slip away like everything else. I ask you for a heart soft enough to listen, tender enough to be moved, free enough to change direction, not just to be briefly inspired and then let everything fade into oblivion. Pour out upon me the spirit of newness, so that I may find the courage to let go of what has decayed and darkened my soul. Help me to cooperate with the breath of the Holy Spirit through concrete choices, returning to prayer, returning to your word, returning to honesty in your presence. Lead me out of the long sleep of indifference and bring me into a new season of life, with eyes that recognize your quiet footsteps in every small detail of my ordinary days. Lord, my merciful Father, today I want to say thank you for the doors you have closed. Even though at the time I could only cry and complain, I recall the opportunities I once longed for, the people I was desperate to hold on to at any cost, the paths I labeled as my one and only dream, and yet you did not allow them to become reality. In those days I thought you had abandoned me, but now, looking back, I suddenly see, had you agreed with me then, I might have wandered much further away, suffered far more deeply, perhaps even lost myself. I thank you for not yielding to my blind pleading, but instead looking at me with the eyes of a father who sees the future clearly. I thank you for every time you said no, for it is because of those no's that I am still standing here today. Please help me carry this memory in my heart as a lesson, so that the next time I face another closed door, I will return to you with trust instead of resentment. All-knowing God, I cannot begin to count how many times you have protected me without my noticing. Those moments when I crossed the street absent-mindedly, those journeys from which I returned safely, those seemingly small encounters that ended up changing the direction of my life, those decisions I just happened to change at the very last minute. I once chalked all of these up to coincidence. Now I understand that behind the word coincidence lay the vast mystery of your providence. I thank you for the accidents that never happened, the tragedies that were averted, the traps that were disarmed before I even knew they were there. I thank you for the days that seemed so ordinary, yet were in truth days when I was hidden beneath the cloak of your protection. Teach me to live with a deeper spirit of gratitude, so that each new morning I do not simply complain about what I still lack, but can say, thank you, Lord, that today I am still here, still held in your hands. I offer this prayer in the holy name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. And please don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, so that together we can build a strong and vibrant community of faith.